Come on, guys. Do I need the top of my head? That's a good question. I don't even know if that's, call it philosophical, maybe. Okay, here we go again. Think everything's set up as it needs to be. Okay, there we go. How are the comments? How goes the comment reading? Well, we're just starting. We're just starting. There was a lot. So I started reading through them this morning when I got up, and I'm like, there's a lot. I think I'm going to do it on stream. There was actually some really good insight in there, and they're really helpful, and there's a lot of them. I don't want to individually respond to them, like with written responses to each of them. So I'm not going to. I'm going to respond here globally and read through some of them with you guys, get your thoughts, get some engagement with that, and otherwise start the stream that way, I think. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. Trying to decide if I want to wait a minute or not. Well, let's see. I'm going to get the game started at the very least. The game open, I mean. I think Shiro's convinced me to check out Star Citizen. I think that might be a next weekend kind of thing. Maybe start talking about that a little bit. I know some people in the Crowfall Guild I'm in play Star Citizen. Let's get some information from that as well, maybe. Let me just launch the Frostpunk. Also, now that I have live feedback, anyone see any information I really don't want to share on this screen? I don't think so, right? Like this looks like it's fairly safe to have open. Okay. I sometimes get paranoid about that. I'm like, this is a real issue with streaming. I never want to stream not window capture. I never want to stream desktop captures if possible. I always want to stream window captures if possible, because it reduces the likelihood that I'm leaking something that I don't want leaked on channel. And mostly it doesn't fucking matter, but every once in a while it does. All right. Too many naked ladies? I don't have naked ladies on my desktop anymore, Tragic Booty, and I'm really disappointed by that. I really liked my rotating background of semi-naked ladies. It was enjoyable for me. It gave me a smile most times I saw it. But no, when my hard drive got wiped, or rather when my hard drive crashed and my backup system also got destroyed in that, I lost all of that. All the good stuff I've been collecting over the years, gone. Feels bad, man. As my wife calls it, my artwork. Lost all my art. Feel like I've been, yeah, it was very sad times. Very sad times. All right. So, if you guys don't have any context for what we're about to do, yesterday I released a state of the channel video. It's only been up less than 12 hours now. It's getting a ton of feedback, and I did specifically ask for feedback on this, so I really appreciate this feedback. I'm going to go through some of that now. I will read all of these. So, okay. If you guys don't know about YouTube, the way that this works for comments is the way the comment section works for a creator this is literally the most recent comments across any of my videos. It will tag which video it is. You can see most of the ones that are being responded to over here on the right are the state of the channel videos, but it doesn't matter where you post a comment ultimately on that. Although for ease, if I ever go back to the video directly, let's say like in 6 months, I want to check out the responses to this video only, posting on them on the video that you post on, of course, makes a difference. But as a creator, this is the kind of interface I have for dealing with content, comments. And I did solicit a lot of feedback for this, and you guys are giving me a lot of feedback for that, and I really appreciate it. So we're going to go through this real quick. The basic question I asked was, why do you watch my stuff? What do you like about it? Why don't you like watching RPGs on the channel? And that was pretty much the totality of what I was asking, I think, mostly. Yeah. Anyways, all right. So we're gonna go through these. I'm gonna read these, and then I'm gonna just I don't. Some of them I might respond to, some I might not. We'll see. BattleTech has changed a lot since your first playthrough. There's a career mode now where you don't get fed resources by the campaign missions, and there are difficulty settings now, so you can have a much harder playthrough and you have much more freedom where you go and what you do. It's a decent thought. BattleTech is the type of game that I tend to really enjoy doing on my channel. It's a really fun combat strategy game with a strategic and a tactical layer, which are really, really fun games for me. So there might be an argument for BattleTech, and I liked BattleTech's campaign quite a lot, actually. So that's a fairly good suggestion of something to maybe come back to. Have you ever played Mount and Blade Warband? I get asked this question approximately 100,000 times an hour, I think is the accurate question for that. It's a strategy / RPG / simulation game that involves war strategy and field tactics, troop management, siege warfare, diplomacy, and relationships with others, and has a leveling up and skill system. Actually sounds really interesting to me. There is a solid, passionate community for this game. There are countless mods that present scenarios that vary the experience of the game. It's quite complex and it'd be a good game to get in depth into. There's a potential to do a guide for every mod, and there's different mechanics in the game. I'd recommend to see if it sparks any interest and passion for you. I haven't played this game, and it's been recommended to me a million times. My reluctance to play it is I believe it's an older game, and I'm always very concerned about going backwards with games, and I'm often concerned with going backwards with games that are in niche markets already. I often feel like I just start chopping up the interest of my viewer base again and again and again. And this might be something wrong, and this might be a good one to test that with. This has been recommended a billion times to me on my channel. I assume that's probably because it has a lot of overlap with things I'm interested in doing. Thanks, Kex, for the resub. 36 months, man. Welcome back. Did I know the Packers are the only not-for-profit and fan-owned franchise in professional American sports? I didn't know that at all. I've never heard that. If you ask a follow-up question of did I care, I would also answer that in the negative. But that's, I mean, it's interesting. There's something to be said about Mount and Blade. I mean, this has been suggested enough that right now where I'm feeling this like desire to test a couple other systems for content on the channel, maybe we'll try Mount and Blade. Certainly could. Your Civ videos are the best of the best out there. You're very thorough and in-depth, and players of games like this love that. Most people mention Civ 5, but I also really love your Civ 6 videos. None of the guides out there came close to how good yours were, and it helped me pick up the game in no time. A game you might really enjoy is Tropico 6, the newest. It's a lot of fun, feels very happy, but it actually has a lot of depth and intricacies. I also enjoyed Stellaris. You can feel the effort the developers when you read all the fluff text, etc., and it's a lot of fun. I also like Stellaris. Stellaris is a pretty good game. I don't know what Tropico is. I thought Tropico was a... I remember it as like an FPS shooter, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't know that game. Yeah, my hypothesis going into this was passion and depth, and basically my channel is something of an educational / entertainment channel. I mean, all the YouTube stuff is entertainment, basically, right? But like my understanding of why my personal internal model of why people tune in is for that, and that's the type of content I try to move towards. And there's been a lot of feedback from this. I kind of want to acknowledge this up front, though. You know, the problem with this is a convenient sample of the people who are most interested in my content answering right now. That's not necessarily a bad thing, and certainly these are my core viewers, and that's not a bad thing at all. But I mean, it is tough to get a rounded set of feedback there, because the first people to respond, the people who respond to the YouTube comments are going to be the people most interested in responding to begin with. And the people who respond this early are going to be the people who are the first people to go, oh, Filthy's got a new video. Let's go watch that. Oh, now there's some stuff to be said, and interact with that, right? So we're skewing the sample a little bit of the people responding to this already. But that's not necessarily a bad thing, and that will round out a little bit over time. So as this is up longer, the rest of my viewers who maybe aren't super tuned into the channel right now will see it, and if they're interested, watch it, and then if they're interested, comment on it. But some of this will be skewed in a certain direction that I have to try to kind of mentally adjust for that bias. Thank you, Titus93, for the sub. Welcome. Tropico 6 is a goofy Sim City. Ew. I don't know if I like city builders. This has been interesting to me. There's the misconception that because I like Civilization 5, I like 4X games. I don't know any other 4X game I've ever liked, so I'm not sure I actually like 4X games. And I haven't played enough city builders to know if I like them or not. I suspect I don't, but I don't know that for certain. Tropico 6. All right, well, I'm going to write these down. I mean, what we're going to do with these, I've got Nerf Fox and Capcom are working in the background right now as we speak, this instant, in fact, on getting a system out. I basically specified some criteria for what I want for a system for us to interact with games as a community. And Nerf's doing a lot of the work to make that happen. Nerf's really good at organizational stuff and is very interested in doing that and volunteers a lot of his time for my channel, which is fucking phenomenal. And hopefully we're going to have something out of that. But I want to write these down anyways. So, yeah. My cam is bringing in the snow. Yeah. Do you like how it starts off not doing anything like that? And then as we just sit here, not moving, not touching any software or hardware, it changes? I love that. I love how it's really visual too. So it's like something every viewer always notices, and viewers doing their due diligence always tell me about it, which I love too. All right. Okay, that was this one, right? All right, my guess is that your tips and tricks videos for RPGs would still do well, despite the fact that your actual streams and playthroughs of these games do not. RPGs are much more story intensive and slow paced, so I feel like unless you're always in battle, I'm specifically thinking of PoE right now, they aren't as entertaining to just sit and watch. This might seem weird given the fact that turn-based strats are slow in general, but each decision you make in those games is meaningful and viewers are interested in why you make these choices. Whereas in PoE, as you navigate the story for 20 minutes before the next battle, these choices aren't as exciting, I guess. It isn't to say they aren't meaningful, but from a streamer/viewer point of view, I think it makes a difference. There's a lot of people responding to this RPG question, and I'm glad of it. I'm glad to get that information. The information is slightly disappointing because it doesn't sound like something that my take from people's perceptions of this and my own experiences with RPGs is that might be something that never does well on my channel. And it's too bad because as a variety streamer, my ultimate goal is basically to play every single fun game there is. And I know personally, I do not finish RPGs on my own. I just don't play them. When I play an RPG until I crack the character build. And once I have a character build that's super fucking overpowered, I get insanely bored with the game and leave and stop playing the game. That's my cycle with RPGs. So the only motivation I've ever had to finish a full RPG is filling out the full storyline for chat. And sometimes there's really cool storylines in RPGs, but I don't personally invest very heavily in those unless I'm investing in that with chat. So I kind of like the fact that the experience of my gaming got wider by doing it as a streamer. So it kind of is bumming me out a little bit that the RPGs doesn't sound like my viewers are very interested in watching me play RPGs. I like you being salty. Go back to EU4. It's a great game with good AI. I'm pretty bored with EU4. I found it not very replayable, which is hilarious because I think lots of people do, but it didn't scratch my replayability itch. You know, once I was beating it as one province miners, I didn't really care anymore. And I don't really like achievement runs. That just never really did it for me. Like, it's artificial restrictions in a way that don't often make the game all that much more fun, which is exactly what I don't want in a challenge run. What I like in challenge runs is diversity of experience. So if I'm going to play a game and restrict the way I have to play it, like not being able to use all the resources available to me, what I want it to be is I want it to be letting me interact with content or systems that I normally skipped because they weren't good enough, but now get an option to use because we're restricting that content. That's what I find fun about challenge runs and replayability. The game Xenonauts is a lot of fun. Maybe you should try it. I don't know what Xenonauts is. I'll write it down. I heard about you from the NQ Civ group, but when I have a day where I'm not being pestered with messages and can watch a stream, I watch yours. If you're playing a strategy game, I'd play. I know you don't do Civ anymore, and there's a number of NQ Group Civ streamers, so no need for you to do so if folks want the content. Battle Brothers was thoroughly enjoyable, enough to do something I rarely ever do, donate. As a disabled person who lives off less than $10K a year and in New York, money's tight. So when I donate, it's for a truly enjoyable stream. Your Battle Brothers streams were that for me. Anything similar to Civ 5 or Battle Brothers would draw me. Oh, that's kind of sweet. Total War Warhammer is a suggestion if you're into that. It's got strategy and a lot of variety, and you can do the same rename units for donation like in Battle Brothers. I think it would be good for you. Just a friendly suggestion. Warhammer 3 is coming out later this year, so you could get into it now, learn it, and when 3 hits the shelves, dive in. That's actually not a terrible idea. The off-putting point for me for Warhammer 2 was I don't like that style of RTS interface is what it boils down to, and that's been the whole thing holding me off of the Warhammer series. Is every time I dive into the Total War series, not the Warhammer series. Every time I dive into the Total War series, I'm just put off by that fucking interface. I'm like, I learned to play RTSs, real-time strategies, on StarCraft and Warcraft 3. And that interface makes the most sense to me. Individual units as opposed to groups of units, and the perspective of that perspective. And I think I could relearn that. And I'm not against that necessarily, but it makes the casual engagement, like just jumping into that game, slow for me. So it might be something to think about. Thank you, Wet Bandit, for the 5 months. Welcome back. Rogue Tech. There'll be plenty to spreadsheet. I think Rogue Tech is a BattleTech mod, I think. I wasn't really willing to do Rogue Tech because there wasn't enough engagement with BattleTech when I played it. But we could revisit BattleTech as a game if it's got a bunch of extra DLC and a lot of new content out. And then if we did a playthrough of BattleTech and found the game interesting and fun and viewers were interested in watching it, then perhaps we could do something like a major overhaul mod like Rogue Tech. I think the base game really could use a major overhaul game mod, but I don't know if we will have the interest channel-wise to do that or not. Yes, QB. Likely spam is certainly something I don't go into very often. You're right about the passion aspect of entertainment. I still watch/have your Civ 5 guides in the background, and I've never played Civ 5 multiplayer. The only Civ 5 I play is Vox Populai's single player, rarely, but those videos are entertaining because of the knowledge and experience you brought. Another favorite YouTuber of mine is Preston Jacobs. He does incredibly in-depth guides about A Song of Ice and Fire, as well as his own theories, and they're so entertaining because of his obvious passion for him, not because I'm a Song of Ice and Fire. Not because I'm a Song of Ice and Fire fan, excuse me. Yeah, I'm worried that this is echo chambery. Not this one comment, don't get me wrong. Again, to talk about the biases of the time of these responses and who's responding. But we'll see. I think I'm right in this, but I might not be. We'll see. I watched the first 12 to 13 minutes. I never understand that one. I'm gonna take this in the warmest possible way I can, which is he watched the first 12 to 13 minutes and said, you know, I already have some things to say about this, and I really want to respond, and I want to respond as quickly as I can, so I'm going to do that without watching the rest of the video. I watched the first 12 to 13 minutes and got reminded of my first impression of you when you did a co-op game with another YouTuber a while back. We have a very similar mindset, it seems. So that's the main reason I started watching you. You were still playing Civilization 5 back then, I think, and while I got bored playing that game very fast, it was still enjoyable to watch someone who had the passion to become a professional at it. Darkest Dungeon, I got hooked on for a while thanks to you. I got bored of Hearthstone real fast. I wasn't interested in being totally clueless and not really caring for the game either when it came to MTG. RPGs are tricky because if you find one that catches my fancy, I'm going to end up playing it and quit watching your playthrough until I've squeezed every last bit of fun out of it for the next 2 to 3 years, learning pretty much everything there is to know in the process, reading guides, watching speedruns, etc. It's interesting. I've heard this a couple times. I actually heard this morning. I think Tragic Booty was saying this, right? Which is if I'm playing an RPG to avoid spoilers, you guys stop watching, which is hilarious because that means part of the crowd who would be interested in RPGs self-selects out of watching me play RPGs, which is fucking terrible for me. So I hope there aren't many others like me in your audience, I guess. I suspect there are quite a few people like that in the audience. And if they are, I hope they have a better financial situation than I do. I can't remember if Age of Empires 2 was mentioned already, but that game caught my attention with the new release that came out. Although I seem to recall you saying something about older games not interesting you that much. Anyways, I thought I'd just throw that out there. Thanks for the entertainment you provided thus far, and keep having fun, please. This one's an interesting one. People, this is kind of a weird social interaction, right? Right there. This has come up twice already in the comments here. People, they're giving me excuses why they're not donating to me. And I mean this in the nicest way. You don't have to give me excuses why you're not donating to me, ever. Ever, 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 ever. Viewers showing up, like, but put it this way. We're in a business transactional relationship. And I know some people don't like seeing it this way. And it isn't a limited thing. This is just the structure of the relationship, not what it means in terms of the depth or interest or passion of that relationship, right? What it means is we are structured in a certain way. I produce content that you guys find useful in some way, and you guys engage in that content. And some of that engagement is support in some way. And it might be viewership, it might be donations, it might be information, it might be responding to requests for information like YouTube comments, it might be Patreon support, it might be opportunities for things like, hey, I'm a business for such and such, or hey, there's a sponsorship opportunity. It doesn't matter. Like, there's no need for any of you to ever be like, oh, I'm not donating, I feel bad about this. Don't feel bad about that, guys. You're the reason why I can do this. So I always a little, people do this, and I always feel a little bad for them because it's not necessary to do that. It goes without saying. So, all right. Yeah, that's an interesting format, Kex. Yeah, that's true, Mark. That's an interesting way to do it maybe as well. All right, let's move down. All right. You are my go-to for play it right strategy, tactics, and system-heavy games, but for RPGs, I prefer someone who focuses more on the storytelling rather than the systems and min-maxing. It's more enjoyable watching someone like Day9 play an RPG game badly, but with lots of personality and a non-optimized decision-making. I don't think I enjoy games without optimal decision-making. And again, unless there's a challenge or an element to it where we're deliberately not playing some class or some set of things because it's too powerful. So this again might just be another push for the fact that maybe RPGs don't survive on my channel. This brings to thought another question, right? Which is some of these comments in a little bit here. I've skimmed some of them. We'll talk a little bit about voting for like variety days, and granted we're a variety streamer, but I think what the point is to put to the vote some set of games that I've been ignoring on the channel and try them out, and to have viewers vote on that and pick that. I've tried this a couple times now in my streaming career, like that idea, and it doesn't seem to fucking work. And it doesn't seem to work because you can't play a game in a day. You can try out a game, you can start a game, but if the game's any good or any fun, you immediately end up re-rolling and restarting because you learn enough about it from that first couple bit of playing that you need to reiterate to do it better. And it isn't enough time to play anything. It's like we tried RimWorld. That was the voted game. That was the game that people told me was a really good game and you missed. And I think it is a really good game. It's really fun. But that took about 3 weeks to get into. There's no way I can do that in a day. I can't even get involved enough to know what I'm doing in a day on that. So I don't know the cost of doing that, not in terms of finances, but in terms, it's indirectly related to finances, of course. But I mean, the cost in terms of how much time it takes, and then the attention span of viewers who aren't interested in that is actually much bigger than being represented there. All right. But I want to keep that in mind because I want to be able to do pretty much any game we possibly can on the channel, but I also want to be able to hit ones that are really good that we've missed. But we have to think about what that looks like systematically, right? What in general, how do we do that? One day a week, because that's the general suggestion is pick one day a week and play a variety game. And I don't think that really works. The way that actually gets implemented, I don't think really works. Hey Filthy, because of you I discovered Darkest Dungeon, and you motivated me to play Magic the Gathering Arena. Also, I've watched you play so many hours of Civilization 5 that it's worrisome. I remember wanting to improve in Civ, and you were the best and most entertainment way to do that. I don't know about your VODs channel. I didn't know about your VODs channel, TT. I love that. Personally, I didn't care to see like 100 uploads on one day, even if it wasn't a game I was playing. If you want to do RPGs and other games, should try to be more casual or be less picky about certain elements that are wrong with the game. So if you just play it maybe on one stream and then move on to the next game, strategy games are your jam. But I think if you are flexible, you could start finding more viewers tune in. If you are flexible, you could start finding more viewers tune in into other types of games that you play. Best of luck, man, and keep it up. Oh, also you could check Swim's channel. I think he's the closest to you in terms of the best of been deep into games. He struggled to find one game to stick with, but he does okay. Regards from Peru. I like hearing this kind of comment. I find it endlessly rewarding to find that people have picked up and played games and enjoyed games because of my content. That continues to be one of the things that I find most enjoyable about being a content creator is it's not joy. It's it's a mix of that. The entertainment, engagement, enjoyment that people get out of my content, both in the sense of what I actually create and then what they get to go do with that. I love hearing that someone has picked up a game because of my games, because of my playthroughs, and then gone and done something with it. That's super cool to me. So I like hearing stuff like that. This comment, I think, comes up a couple times like that, right? If you want to do RPGs, play it more casually, enjoy the story, don't worry about min-maxing it. I don't know if I can play a game like that. I think, I don't even know how you think about that. How do you not just go into every situation always in life? And I don't mean gaming and limited only to gaming. I mean everywhere. How are you not thinking about how you can do it better, what actually interacts in that scenario, the factors that are important versus the factors that aren't? I don't know how to turn that off. And this is one of these things where I don't know if I want to turn it off. I like that. I like thinking about things in that way. Imagine I'm a child. A couple subs here. Random guys somewhere with 28 months. Thank you. And Billy with 57 months. Cheers, guys. Appreciate the resubs. You guys liking this? I don't think I'll do this too often, the comments like this in real time, but this one, I specifically solicited feedback, and I'm getting a ton of feedback, and I really appreciate that. And I think this is a continuation of the conversation we had in this video. So I think it makes sense to do this. Yeah, the opposite of schadenfreude is actually fairly true, Shiro, right? It's the vicarious enjoyment of people enjoying what I've done. That's pretty cool. The vicarious enjoyment of the impact I've had on people, perhaps, is a better way of phrasing that. I like your humor. You're good at strategy games. Your guide videos are fun to watch, even for games I don't play. Okay, concise. I like your thought processes behind games and mechanics and min-maxing those. I don't know what this word's supposed to be yet. Maybe better in various other games too. Might be better in various other games too. In my honest opinion, this works also best for strategy games since those are designed to put the player to the test, so there is a need to optimize things. I also like the way you express stuff, or when you dismantle a stupid idea of viewers, always makes me laugh. I don't watch RPG streams since RPGs, again, in his opinion, are most designed. That's something you never need to put in, by the way. I understand that everything you write is in your opinion. I don't watch RPG streams since RPGs are more designed to tell a story than putting you to a test. So there's rarely, if you don't play Dark Souls, the need to optimize things. Maybe also because RPGs want you to design a character to your liking, which doesn't have to be the most efficient combination of properties, and to create your own game. Watching those streams also would spoil the story for me. Stellaris would really be a game I would be interested to watch, also because I lack the time to play it myself or I'm too tired to play. To sum it up, I basically take your ideas and thought processes on getting more efficient and apply it to other stuff. Keep up the good work. Yeah, this comment again and again. Well, maybe something like a challenging RPG is the way to go. I don't know if there's a lot of them, but I think there are some. Is it Dark Rain, something like that? Blood Rain, something like that. Dark Souls, maybe that's the type of RPG we need. Nier. Yeah. I don't know. Like, I know my moderators are big on this idea of me playing Nier right now. I know literally nothing about that game, and I am scared of putting more RPGs on my channel right now, especially with the viewer base we're at right now, which is a fairly low viewer base for me, and it's a fairly low viewer base for what I've had in the last couple years. So I am apprehensive about taking something that so many of my viewers say we're not interested in watching you do for a variety of reasons, part your personality, in part because of how we engage with the game, in part because of how these games are designed to be played. In other words, it's not a min-maxy style of play. We're not really interested in watching you min-max it. You don't interact with the story enough, and we don't want to have spoilers. That seems to be a fairly strong indicator to stay away from that. I would love that to change, and I don't know what that looks like. Perhaps it looks like me being unable, like, I don't know. Is that just like I'm not allowed to build characters? Chat builds the character for me and I just have to interact with the story like that? I don't know. We could do something like that. We could figure out a way to artificially restrict my ability to engage with the game in a way that I like for the entertainment value. And if it's a good enough story, that's okay. I'm okay with that. I don't ever play games for the story. So we could try that. All right. Oh shit, what did I just do? No! I don't know what we just did. All right, 2 seconds. Let's fix that. I can get back to the comment sections from the start, but I don't know what the hell that's loading. Click the button. All right. All right. I'm not sure what he's responding to. What's 9 minutes in to this? I want to go do something else. Like, this is part of how I engage with life. Oh, I see. Me not wanting to grind through shit. Okay. I think filthy means producing bad content. So let's break down what streaming is. Streaming at its fundamental level is a watchable story that doesn't have to end. So why is streaming And so why streaming is so massive is because those watching want to affect how it ends. And that's the most boiled down version of streaming. Now, from my perspective, when I found Filthy all those years ago, I wanted to become knowledgeable about Civ 5. I found him maybe game 90. And I did, but what kept me coming back is his salt culture. He got so mad at Cole and Mr. Wondersled, oh, that's Tank, and that he has permanently endeared himself to me. And while I don't find that as much, he has kept some of it around, and at the end of the day, I can just watch his ancient games and about RPG. There's no salt factor for RPGs because while there can be motivation, there's no way to lose a game because of a coincidence. I watch Filthy Salty videos because that's my favorite of his content. I enjoy his learning content mostly in his ability to download and absorb challenges, and see him just eat challenges I wouldn't have bothered with is appealing. But the content isn't unique. There are other Headbrick channels, but generally I don't prefer that content. I'd rather watch or do just about everything else. That's my perspective. Whether or not I'm reliable is not relevant. It's a strange comment. Yeah, okay. I don't think that so a couple years ago, maybe 4 years ago, I did a channel survey, and I asked a lot of questions, and we got a fair amount of feedback from that. And that was one of the hypotheses I kind of wanted answered at that time, was how many of my viewers, or rather the hypothesis was essentially a fair number of my viewers show up for the salt portion of my streams. And I wanted to confirm that and then make some decisions based on that. My kind of internal decision about that was, yeah, there's some people who enjoy the salt, and I would rather take the salt and basically make that into scathing satirical commentary than I would actual anger and annoyance with people in that way. I don't think yelling at people on the internet is really where I want to be in life. As a general strategy, I would rather take their ideas, destroy those fucking ideas, and then poke fun at the stupidity or lack of insight of those ideas than I would get actually angry with someone. So I think I'm not against the people enjoying me being salty about stuff. And I hate bad RNG and I hate bad systems. So that certainly happens for me. But there's certainly some stuff in my early streaming where I was angry with people. And to the point, like, I'm personally insulting them, etc. I don't think I really wish to continue with that vein of content. I think that vein of content, I think, is ultimately not who I'm interested in being as a person on a personal level, and I don't think is particularly good for me. So this sentiment's okay. And certainly that stuff's up there and it will be up there forever. So he can go back and enjoy that, but I don't think I want to cater more content to that type. Yeah. Now I can tease chat for sure. I like teasing chat. Teasing chat is one of the things I enjoy about streaming. Some gamers are there to produce content, and their personality takes over the channel and not the content of the game. On your channel, your sarcasm and presence are excellent. The main thing I have watched your game, though, is for the content. The games you play are difficult. They're very nuanced, which makes them hard to decipher. You, however, make it appear smooth and easy, and while watching, I'm able to pick up on techniques and best practice. When it comes to your audience preferences, you've cultivated an audience of in-depth strategy viewers, Battle Brothers, Darkest Dungeon, Civilization, Battletech, XCOM, etc. You mentioned lower views for RPG games. It's not that viewers don't like those games, but they go somewhere else for those types of videos. If you want more people to associate you with those games, then you'll need to keep playing them. Regardless of what you choose, I'll watch. If you want to go back to EU4, then great. Solaris, Civ, Battletech, Divinity Original Sin, then I'll watch. Find what you enjoy, and those that are going to stick around will. As you said, people will notice when you're not enjoying yourself. If you enjoy yourself, people will show up, even if it takes some time to see a switch over an audience. This is a nice sentiment. I don't know if the data actually backs this up. I've heard this a lot. This is be yourself. And I actually don't think be yourself is very good advice to people. I think ignoring the things that drive you, or rather, I think be yourself is too... It lacks, if we're going to use nuance, it lacks the nuance of what we're talking about here. Because myself gets to be presented in a number of different ways, and I get to be myself pretty much regardless of what I'm doing. This kind of misses the fact that other people are interacting with that in a way too, right? So my decisions of that will not just be success regardless of what other people want. It will be essentially providing what it is people are coming to the channel for. And I like the idea of growing it so people come to the channel not just for good in-depth strategy and in-depth guides, but also come to see a fun playthrough. If I can make that happen, that's fine. But I don't think that's just a be yourself kind of thing. So I like the sentiment of this comment. I think it's a very flattering comment, right? Like it's a very nice thing to read as feedback about yourself. And it's a type of viewer that I love having on channels. A viewer who says, anything you're going to play, I'm going to come watch. I like your stuff. I like watching you play games. I like being I like being a viewer of your channel. That's a really cool thing to hear. And there's a lot of you guys who do that. And that's my core audience. And I like that. But I don't think that the advice in of itself is particularly good, because part of what we want to do is we want to expand. Like 300 viewer average streams right now, or 250 average streams, is too small. That's not long-term sustainable. And this is a dip in our normal viewer base, but we'd like to be a decent sized channel for this, and that's not decent enough for that. And I don't have the goal to be the world's largest streamer, but I do want to be able to do this comfortably forever if possible. Yeah, I think that's correct, Billy. It's naive advice. There has to be viewer interest to drive this in a profession that is that. By the way, chat, I am slowly transitioning into my final form. This is apparently the amount of time.
Update. Less than 3.
Thanks, Catharin, for the resub and the comment, and thank you, Overlord Shimra, for the 38-month sub. I am finally becoming my final form. Slowly becoming my final form, excuse me. I'm peeling so much skin right now that I expect that there'll be piles of it around the house when my wife returns, so that'll be exciting. I thought about taking a photo and then thought maybe some people would be grossed out by that rather than amused, but that's sunburn doing its work. I'd like to recommend Thea 2: The Shattering. This has been recommended a lot. It's actually on that list of games that people could vote on to play. I have no idea what the game is. I remember I think I own it, and I think I fired it up for like 2 minutes and was like, this doesn't look fun. But that doesn't mean it isn't fun, and this is part of why we're reworking this system, is because I have not been historically very good at predicting ahead of time what games are fun, entertaining, that the chat likes, and that I will get engaged with off of a short amount of playing them. And I don't have the time to play an in-depth game offline before starting to stream it, and I can't just take the advice of random people on the internet of what games are going to be good for my channel because they personally like them. So it's kind of a vicious circle of there's no fucking good way to deal with that, and we're going to work on that. And one of the ways we're working on that is we're designing a system that not only puts games on there that I'm interested in and puts my ratings of them, both games I've played in the past, as well as new games upcoming. Not only does it have a system that looks at the fact that when DLC and expansions are released, that this is something that's probably worth revisiting for good games, and that we're also going to start taking community recommenders, people who are going out of their way to offer suggestions of games, and we're going to start rating them in some way. And I don't know if this is going to be like a compatibility rating where, this person recommends these 5 games and I played 4 of them and love them, but their votes are going to start counting more for it's not even a vote. Their suggestions are going to count as a higher weight in this system than they would otherwise. So at some point, we're going to reach a point where I go, that game looked like shit to me, and I put it over here and the probably not playing because it's a shit, like maybe it's like a 3 on a 10 scale. But every one of my super recommenders, the people who, super suggesters, whatever we call them, the people who are regularly giving me good advice about gaming, they keep putting this at a 7 or 8, then at some point we're going to pass the threshold where I'm against it, and we're going to take that advice and try it out. So that's the plan right now. Because I don't have a perfect answer to the fact that it takes too much time to evaluate a game, and there's too many suggestions from people who don't either get my stuff or just like things differently or whatever else. You've never been sunburnt in your life. Lucky bastard. All right. I would like to, I said this. A nice strategy game where you take care of each group member. Unfortunately, I've never made the most difficult steps, and it would interest me to how you would do it. Of course, you can also give them names. You were swamped with overtime. How did you find PoE? Path of Exile or Pillars of Eternity PoE? Ever tried Dungeon Rats? I haven't.
You have returned.
You're not talking against the wall, Kex. I listen to you. But I also am an independent decision maker who, when you fucking tell me stuff, I put that into the equation, but don't let it be the equation. Hendu, thank you for the 30 months. Path of Exile. I found it fun in kind of the mindless way that those games are fun. It probably would be more fun if I were building builds. I streamed it like 1 or 2 days or 1 day or something and had literally awful viewership for it, and was kind of like, I probably can't afford to do this like real time. All right. Please play things / do things that others aren't doing. Jesus. Can you imagine how hard that would be as a business model? Like to do that and then also find things that like were good. The whole of the internet has missed this, but you have found it and consistently find it.
Returned.
Up to you what that is. Pick something that isn't uber popular and go for it. This doesn't mean only play bad games, but perhaps games that are a few years old or pure classics so the big streamers have moved on to other projects. Yeah, I mean, there's that with a little bit more explanation is a bit better of a comment in the sense that, how about Advance Wars? I don't know what that is. Or run a run of some of your favorite games, but heavily modded, 007 GoldenEye, for example. Yeah, this is... It's not that I disagree. I think probably a better way to articulate this from a business sense, from my perspective anyways, from a channel direction sense, is don't worry about chasing hype. Play the games that are your bread and butter, games that you enjoy, and create content that distinguishes you from other content creators, which is hopefully ideally what I do. That's what the guide videos are, right? You know, what is my content creation looks like? It looks like daily streaming, which I try to keep entertaining and interesting, of playing games that are interesting and challenging to me. And then games that I get passionate about, I create really in-depth guides and discussions about the strategy and components of those games. And the really in-depth guides and videos are the ones that have these ultra long tails in terms of viewers 5 years later coming back and being like, hey, I watched that guide video, bought that game and had a blast with it. Thank you so much. And those are really, really cool. Yep. That's cool too, Hess. Try a league launch sometime for PoE and see how viewers are. I don't know if I have the knowledge base for that game. And like, what was saying something to me the other day? I might maybe get to it here, but there's sometimes I get suggestions that don't acknowledge opportunity cost. And there's a lot of opportunity cost to investing heavily in a game to get to the point where you can be knowledgeable enough about it to make decisions that are optimal or heavily optimized. And the more saturated the game is, the more likely someone's already done that. And the older a game is, the more likely that someone's already done that. And if part of what I'm doing is essentially streaming interesting games and then breaking them down, if I break down a game that's been broken down, and it's been broken down 5 years ago by somebody else who's already got a viewer base for it, I'm probably, I was about to say pissing into the wind, but maybe we could think of other examples too. Okay. Yes, the light. That's my suspicion too. Advanced Wars, Stronghold Crusader, Warcraft 3, Starcraft 2, Company of Heroes, SimCity, and Oregon Trail. Oregon Trail. How about Advanced Wars? I don't know what Advanced Wars are. I can write that down. Again, the direct game suggestions we're going to build a system for, because the problem is right now, as I've already said on this stream, which is that every one of you has your favorites and your way of engaging with games and your thoughts of how I am, and your suggestions without any way to weigh them all come in equally good or more likely equally bad. And not from the fact that your suggestion is bad, but from the fact it's probably not actually a very good fit with my channel, my interests, and what we're trying to do going forward. So I need some way to evaluate those suggestions. The suggestions themselves are useful in the fact that your exposure to games as a community is much broader and wider than my exposure to games as an individual. So crowdsourcing that makes a ton of sense. It's a really good idea, but I have to have some way to collate, condense, and evaluate the feedback that I'm getting from that and the suggestions I'm getting from that. So there has to be something for that. So that's what we're working on right now. That was the kind of big take home to me from the last maybe like 2 to 3 months of the last quarter of 2019 was I need a better system in place for identifying potential content for me. And I need probably to do that in some sort of crowdsourcing way. Am I still playing Civ 6? No. If you have a tax question. I do have tax questions, Mark. I actually really have tax questions. And I've been doing like HR block or whatever the hell it is. And I don't think the guy I've been working with there knows what the fuck to do with me. So absolutely, Mark. I don't think I could do that like real time on a stream. Like that just needs to be kind of like working through the tax information or something. Tax stuff as a streamer sucks because you're an individual. You're considered your own business essentially. And anyways, tax stuff for streaming sucks. And I know nothing about it and have no interest in it. So yeah, I absolutely fucking do need that. Send me a message in Discord. If that's a serious offer and you're seriously willing to help with that, I actually could use help with that. I consider console games. I bought a console controller. This was Keck's suggestion to do this, and I bought one, and we played Dark Souls with it for like 5 minutes, and like 2 other games, maybe for that. So I have a console controller. If I can play it on my PC, if I can emulate it in some way, or it's just made for PC and console, but it's really like console controls, yes. And I want that QBE because I decided, sometime this year, or last year, or whatever it was, that basically the variety portion of me is I want to be able to play the best games no matter what system they were released on. Game Wargroove is essentially the Advance Wars for Steam. Okay. Okay. What does this 1040 on stream? Real Time Eater says, I slightly disagree with the sentiment about old, already done games. Seeing you approach a new game and go from novice to expert is the most enjoyable part of your channel to me. You always end up utilizing unique strategies that other people haven't thought of. Oh, thanks. I'm not sure that, it's not that I was about to say I'm not sure that's true, but what I actually mean to say with that is I'm not doubting the validity of your statement. I mean, I don't know that all viewers, I don't even know that the bulk of viewers are care too much about my experience with the game so much as they are liking the utility of my experience with the game. So in other words, if the game's well defined and well beaten and well documented, then they may not find a whole lot of engagement from my channel doing it because they've already seen that done on another channel or already watched it or already played it. So whereas you might find my learning experience enjoyable, that may be a minority opinion. But I do appreciate the minority opinions being presented because it helps me kind of weigh my thought process of making of what I'm doing in there. Have I played any older Zeldas? No. Depending on how many hours you stream in Germany, you're considered a broadcaster, you need a license. I've been told I should do things like LLCs, but I don't know really what it means or what it entails. The States does not particularly support streamers that well from a tax perspective. It's been kind of a bitch. Like, I also have to deal with the fact that now I have contractors on my channel as well, since I'm paying a community manager and I'm paying a editor. I don't have any idea how to deal with that from a tax perspective, not in the least. And the people I've talked to have not been particularly helpful for that. And I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. So this is one of the things I both like and dislike about streaming is I need to become not an expert in everything because there's no possible way I could possibly do that. I need to become an amateur at everything, an amateur at streaming, an amateur at audio, an amateur at video processing, an amateur at I'm not even a YouTuber. I'm a streamer, but the YouTube content has just become a big portion of my channel because it's a good way to present information. I need to become an amateur at information presentation, like an amateur at you do so many different things in this, and it's just, anyways, no complaints about it, but it's sometimes overwhelming. Do you have metrics of the number of viewers per game played? You can always there's good stuff for streamers. What is this? I think it's, let me not do this live in case I pull up like financial information or something, but this is a public site, so it shouldn't be. Let me just quickly grab this stream related. I think it's Sully Gnome. Yeah. So this is a fairly good service. Not really a service. I mean, it is. These sites exist not for streamer benefits or tracking this stuff. These exist for advertisers to get a sense of what to have put into your channel. But you can do this for anybody, right? This is Sully Gnome is the site. You can look at the the demographics for a streamer. They're not perfectly accurate. As someone who actually knows perfectly accurately the number of hours I streamed at a time and like, you know, how many hours I played a game, it often doesn't catch everything perfectly, but it's a pretty good indicator, and it's pretty long lived, a lot of graphs, a lot of stuff to look at that, and you can break it down by game, etc. So do I have a metric of the number of viewers per game played? I'm not even, yes and no. I think I have more of a general sense of that from viewer numbers, from looking at things like this, from getting a sense of what's performed well and what hasn't. I try not to beat myself up too much about the day-to-day numbers, because day-to-day numbers fluctuate. And what is more important to me, I think, is the overall trends on my channel. So like this last few months of being lower viewer count has been kind of shitty for me. I kind of hate that feeling, but I'm trying A, not to read too much into that, and B, not to be particularly affected on a moment-to-moment basis, because I think it's a vicious cycle that you can very easily lock yourself into. Low numbers feel shitty, bad product. Lower numbers feel shittier, worse product, etc. And I don't have any interest in fucking destruction spiraling my own channel. It seems like I can just avoid that entirely by dealing with the fact there's ups and downs in this, and that some of those ups and downs are driven by my the games that I'm playing in that moment. Thank you, Lux. Appreciate the donation. And did I miss Drunk Danish's resub? I think I did. Thank you, Drunk Danish, for the 14 months. I'm trying not to let it sidetrack the conversation we're having as these subs and donations come through, but I also want to acknowledge you guys supporting me, so thank you. All right, let's go back to reading through these. What was this one? Oh, this was the timestamp, so we can close that too. Okay, I'd love to see Nino Kuni's Wrath of White Witch. Never heard of that game? One of my faves. Also, Octopath Traveler, but that's on Switch, which can be streamed. I love Battle Brothers, helped me tenfold. Again, I repeatedly run into the issue of whenever I get hit with a recommendation of a game that's someone's personal favorite, I have no way to vet that recommendation. And we're fixing that now. This is one of the things the system needs to encompass, and it will encompass, which is I'm going to build out of you guys. I'm going to build the super suggesters for my channel. And I'm going to try to take into account that, because I need the extra eyes and ears and brains thinking about what content would be great for me, but I also need to be able to filter that out from what is either well-intended chaff or just totally off-base chaff for that stuff, right? Thank you, CyberX, for the sub. Oh, thanks, the real one. The real Oha. Curious about my gameplay. Well, I have 1 billion hours on my YouTube of my gameplay if you're ever curious about that. All right. Looking for a game, Civ5 wants you back. This type of comment is entirely useless. If you ever find yourself writing this comment, delete it or take a screenshot and then delete it, and then save it for yourself, since presumably that's the only person this feedback is useful for. I have no intention of ever playing Civilization 5 again unless it is like a one-off for something like, you know, a collab with some other channel or some nostalgia day or something like that. And the reason for that is because I have moved on past this game. I've played this game in every iteration that I can possibly think of that's enjoyable for me, and want to continue moving forward with my life of experiencing other gaming content that I find enjoyable. I have no interest in going back to that. Even if it were financially viable, like if it were like, you know, suddenly I'm every day at 2,000 viewers, that would be my definition of grinding. And some people are able to do this well, but I think I explained this pretty heavily in my State of the Channel. I'm not good at doing that. I don't do very well forcing myself to do stuff I don't want to do. And my workaround with that has been structure my life in a way that I don't have to do that, because I don't do well with that. I find that fairly miserable and unenjoyable and have a hard time faking good with that. So this type of comment to me is at the least, at its best, it's well-intended, but kind of shitty. And at its worst, it becomes kind of an attack repeatedly to hear that. So the way I engage with this is kind of like, well, fuck you too, mate. You know, even if it's meant well, but generally it is. Generally, it's like, we really like your Civ 5 content. Please make more of that. But yeah. So if you find yourself writing that, just stop. Like this type of comment, I'm reading it out loud for chat. This type of comment, if I see that, right, in a comment, I pretty much just skip it as a content creator for this. I think one of the reasons we don't watch your RPG content is possibly the YouTube algorithm feeding me only your Civ 5 and strategy-like content, which is how I found you. I don't understand this. So I also had someone in a post today talk about how they can't find my guide video content. All right, I just want to point this out, right? How do you guys watch YouTube? Do you really just like click the suggested links nonstop? Like, how can you not find the game review content? It's right there under fucking game reviews. It's on the front page of my channel. Like, what are you guys doing to find content? I don't understand it. Like, when I go to a channel, if I'm like, let's fire up like Jerry, right? Like if I go to Joe Rogan's channel, I do two things. The first is I pay attention to their playlist, which I think they do extremely bad on this channel. And then I go to videos. And I go to videos because videos is where their uploaded videos are. And then I pick which video, then I might like read a description. Like I don't know this person. So if I want to, I don't know if I can do this, stream this. I think I can stream this. I'm not streaming anything. I'm not going to watch it. But if I'm like, oh, who's this? What does it say? Well, this guy says, Joe is joined by 2 people I don't know, 3 people I don't know. And recap on their 3rd annual Sober October challenge. Not really my content, skip. But like, that's how I engage with YouTube content. I don't know what you guys do, but it's clearly not how I do it. But this is a recurring issue that we have, which is YouTube does not offer a lot in terms of organization. They offer playlists and they offer multi-playlists. This is a multi-playlist right here. No, this is actually a playlist. This is a playlist of videos. So this just uploads. This one here is literally just uploading the most recent video so that it's easily accessible for you guys to find what's the thing he's just done. And then we try to do organizational playlists. This is a multi-playlist, right? So this is a multi-playlist of my current active games. This is Frostpunk with all the videos in that. This is Crowfall with all the videos in that. This is Phoenix Point with all the videos in that. This is RimWorld with all the videos in that. There isn't much more I can do organizationally on YouTube, but people seem to struggle to find the stuff they want to find on my channel. There's also a search thing, chat. You can use searching to find stuff. It's actually fairly good too. I don't know. People say that and I'm like, I don't know what to tell you. Didn't I do a Filthy's guide to YouTube channels? I did, but people can't find it. You should go to your subscriptions tab. That's funny. I never use the subscriptions tab. That's not true. The subscriptions over here where things pop up, I'll pay attention to those. Like only in the sense of like if I'm sitting there going like, fuck, I want to watch something on YouTube and I want to, how do I do that? Well, I'll check if there's something new there, but rarely am I just clicking something like that most of the time. All right. For your day-to-day YouTube watching, you have videos shown on your front page, new videos from people I often watch pop up there. I'm ready to. I don't even know what a front page is. Where's the front page on this Kex? Okay, let's keep going through the comments. Home. Home? Am I going to regret clicking on this? Let's find out. Chat, this is useless. This is useless. There's not a single video there I want to watch. I like some of these content creators. I like Sam Harris. I like Jocko Willink. I like Destiny. I like Joe Rogan. But I don't want to watch any of these fucking videos. Okay. All right. I think one of the reasons, oh, we already did this one, right? Okay. So the YouTube algorithm feeding them only Civ 5 videos, that may be a browsing thing. There's not a lot I can do about that. Well, there is the point that if I build up strategy gaming content, it might link them that maybe. I don't know. I don't know if that is useful feedback or not. Not in the sense that it's not useful having heard it, but I don't know if I can, I guess what I should say is I don't know if it's actionable feedback. All right, QBE. Uh-oh. Live responding. Just thinking out loud, reasons for watching the stream, personality, your comments, salt, etc. It's very amusing. Interaction with chat, due in big part because of the above. Education, going really into depth, game systems, similar taste in games. Reason RPGs don't do so well, in his opinion, at least in my case, I find them to be less accessible due to not knowing the stories so far. If you don't, that is a huge problem with RPGs. Is RPGs are one of those games that Twitch essentially breaks your viewing experience of Twitch is whenever you tune in for whatever hour, couple hours segment of the stream that's available there, and you have no context for what happened before, what happens after. And yes, if you spend the time, you can catch up on that context, but the stuff that does really well with that are things that can be broken down into hour, 45, half hour segments with no context needed to understand them. games that are 30 to 45 minutes in length, RTSs, for example, death matches, like FPS death matches, Dota chess style things. All these do well there because any viewer can tune in with a basic understanding of the game and pick up the flow of what's happening in that moment right then. So I agree. This is a recurring problem. This is one of the reasons why YouTube as a format is probably better for something like RPGs. And we tried that. We did the Tyranny playthrough. I think that was offline, the Tyranny playthrough, because the idea was essentially if you want to follow the story, you need to have watched it in order to do that. So I buy this. I buy this a lot. I don't know that is this again seems to be a point in favor of not streaming RPGs on the channel. If you don't